We will call to order the April 2nd, 2024 meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Bell.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for each stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we've got one issue to discuss today, which is the relocation of a polling place due to a fire, which we discussed briefly last meeting. Just want to make some initial comments, which is that we had a couple of many issues that came up last meeting in regard to integrity of our elections. We fact-checked some of those issues, including the claim that there were 200,000 votes that were cast or by people who were not registered or unaccounted for in Pennsylvania, and the Associated Press called that false. So just wanted to make that clear that that is been fact-checked by multiple news organizations, and it's important that we provide factual information in these meetings, so I'm going to do that. Beyond that, do you have any comments?
Not yet, but I mean, I believe that the 200,000 number is not accurate, but I'm not using news media as our fact-checking. But I think that it can be fact-checked, and I think that there's been enough information that's been out there that that may not be accurate as far as number of votes versus registered voters. But I doubt we're going to have to worry about that moving forward. But other than that, I think we have a full agenda here, right? One thing,
yes. We gotta move a polling place.
Do you have public comment or what's first?
Before we go to public comment, I'll just say I know there's interest in the Third Circuit decision on the Civil Rights Act, and there are some folks who I believe are coming today to tell us to uncertify an election or decertify an election. We do not have that capability. Once an election is certified, you've got to go to court to seek relief or to change that. So that's not a matter before this board. It's not germane. If you have other comments, please bring them. But we don't decertify elections. It's just not in our authority. So with that, I'll start with public comment.
First up, Jim Mollet.
Jim Mollet, Worcester. You rely on media fact. You rely on media fact.
We don't need to have the back and forth. Go ahead.
We don't need a back and forth. But after their performance during COVID and everything else, they were wrong. Fact checkers are wrong. Wrong about everything. So I suggest you check your own facts. The last meeting, you told me there's no fraud, no voter fraud in Montgomery County. And I got to get you the evidence. We got to bring the evidence to you because everything's just fine here. So I need your help. How many fraudulent votes were cast in the last election? Mail-in ballots. You know that figure? Can you give me that? That'd be good. You don't know because there's no procedures or protocols in place to discover it. You're kind of like letting everybody else have responsibility. How many fraudulent signatures were there on mail-in ballots in the last election? Don't know that one either. We don't do signature verification. The question is, why do you put a signature on a ballot? What's the purpose? That's basically you can identify that's the person who's doing it, but you don't sign checking it. You know, how do you know it's not my cat or my dog signing anything? You don't know. So you got to have a procedure to take care of it. And the procedure could be that if the signatures don't match, you notify the voter. And then the voter goes, hey, what the heck's going on? Right? I know you can't void the ballot, but you can certainly notify the voter. How many dead people voted in the last election? You know that figure? Is there a report? Can we see the report? How many got purged off the voter rolls? So you can maybe give us the fact, because you want me to prove it. I'll prove it. You just got to give me some facts. how many votes, how many voters from the United States voted in the last election? Out of the county voted in the last election? Do you have any idea? How many votes were cast by people who live out of the state? Is there a report? Can we take a look at it? So, you know, you want us to prove there's no voter fraud, but that's really your job, not my job. And you don't, from what I see, you don't have the policies, procedures, protocols in place to do it. So my suggestion is you put some of those things in place. Well, provide us with the data that you're relying on, that and there's just no voter fraud in Montgomery County. Now, my suggestion to you is make me your community liaison to voter integrity. And then give me access to your stack, your data, and everything else. And I will find the voter fraud for you. You just got to give me access to the tools to do it. So would you be up for that, making me your community liaison for voter integrity? Position you could do easily. You're the chair, you can nominate. Put me up. Thanks.
I'm happy to just respond to some of that. We do have several measures after every election to audit and review any irregularities. And they're random audits. We have the public disclosure of everyone who voted and who didn't, as I said last time. And there was one dead person who voted in 2020. They lived in Delco. There was a man who voted for Donald Trump for his mother who died, and he was prosecuted. And that's the case.
Is it Monco or Delco?
Delco.
I thought Monco.
Monco, I'm not aware of any case, and no one on this board is aware of any case from 2020. And in regard to the broader issue of widespread voter fraud, I think it's important to note, and I didn't have my microphone on to say that. I think it's important to note that this was litigated many, many times in many, many different courts around the country by the former president. They made the case. Judges he appointed closed that case and rejected it, right? So this issue has been litigated extensively. The issue of widespread voter fraud. Yeah. You got a lot of case numbers, John?
It's thoroughly litigated. It has been. I can't point to specific cases in the moment.
Yeah.
But I could come up with a variety of cases in which voter fraud has been alleged. I know we dealt with it in the Middle District, Federal Court of Pennsylvania directly after the election. And that got turned over. They attempted an appeal on that one to the Fifth Circuit and the Supreme Court. Both of those appeals were not taken up by those courts. All of the claims that have been made have been litigated in court. It has been found that there is no widespread voter fraud that has occurred in regards to the 2020 election in the state of Pennsylvania.
Right. And I think it's important. Look, and I'll give Tom this. Is it possible that, you know, somebody like the person in Delco voted for their mother and, you know, there's isolated incidents like that? It's possible. But what we do is ensure that the integrity of the overall system is maintained. We do multiple audits, random audits. Tom's been through the warehouse. He's very well aware of the process. Do you want to go ahead?
The only thing I'll make two comments. One is, like I said at the last meeting, I'm not going to go back to the 2020 election. I will say though, we need to be careful with saying that everything's been litigated, and because a lot of the court cases in 2020 were not where you throwing out procedural reasons. There's a lot of reasons why court cases weren't argued. So let's not say everything was litigated and prove that there wasn't voter fraud. We don't know for sure. And any jurisdiction in the United States does not know for sure when somebody moves, when they moved by, did they legally change their address or not? So does that constitute voter fraud if they vote in an area that they moved from versus where they're living now? I don't know the answer to that question, but it does happen because people do move, and they may move and the election might be a month later and it doesn't get caught through whatever systems are in place. Again, I don't believe or know if that actually constitutes voter fraud or not, but it does happen. And I will never say that there isn't issues that occur each election, because I don't know for sure, and I can't disprove that there's 0% issues. I'm not going to say that elections were lost because of widespread voter fraud, because I don't have the proof to say that, so I won't say that. But more importantly, I only care about, at this point, elections moving forward. That's my concern. That's my oversight, because as I've said multiple times, when I stand in front of the community to certify an election, I want to be able to do it with confidence. And that's what I'm working on, that, you know, since I've been sworn in. The question or statement regarding verification of signatures, as I said at the last meeting, the PA Supreme Court ruled, I think it was, and I correct me what date it was, but I think it was in 2020 or 2019. I don't remember which year it was.
It was 2020.
2020. The Supreme Court ruled, the PA Supreme Court ruled that signature verification is not required. I don't agree with that decision. It doesn't make any sense to me. But again, that's the decision that was made by the Supreme Court. I will have comments after we get past towards the end of the meeting regarding the Third Circuit recent ruling. But as far as looking back, as I said before, I'm not looking back to 2020. I care about making sure that everything we do moving forward, that I could stand behind the election results when I sit here and vote to certify the election. That's my number one concern. And that's what I'm focused on.
Got it. Next person. Okay.
Ed Moy.
Thanks for following me. I just want to clarify. I'm going to talk about the Third Circuit Court.
The issues that you can bring up are things that can come up before this body.
Well,
So
ultimately, it could come up in front of us. So,
in what way?
well, if there's a ruling, eventually, if there's a ruling that we have to overturn the election, then it comes in front of this board. So it potentially can come in front of us.
You're talking about whether we should count undated or misdated ballots. Obviously, that is germane. If you're saying that we should change the results of a certified election, that's not something this board.
Okay, I want to do it.
Okay.
I can speak from experience, and hopefully I can use the time in those questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
Being as I stated before this body, I'm retired from the state police, and we used to go to court and have traffic carriers only to take a picture there. And let's say this in fact happened, but not for myself, for my colleagues. He had someone speeding using the radar device in the zone for 35 miles an hour, he got 100 miles an hour. Just in court, and he's got the radar device calibrated every 30 days. He just reported that he didn't realize when he got there, the certificate that he had only showed that the radar device had been calibrated 32 days prior. So the judge looked at it and he said, "So are you going to do this or am I?" And so him, in the pursuit of justice, he says, "I'm going to withdraw all charges on this individual and withdraw a citation." That's basically what I believe the Third Circuit did. And if they're saying that, well, this body you can't withdraw, change, or overturn anything, then maybe we should get it in court then. And since the Third Circuit ruled in that fashion, especially because of in Torrington Township, Mr. Richard Marino, I believe it is. He lost via a tie, and I think was it a coin flip or something like that nature? He got tied due to these ballots without a proper date. So and maybe this body should get an attorney for the courts and get that up on the attorney for the purpose. As far as voter fraud nationwide, Mr. Attorney here, my understanding, I could be wrong, but that there were maybe 65 cases brought up on Mr. Trump's behalf, and 60 of them were thrown out due to standing, which isn't litigation, not not as far as for what I look as far as law enforcement. Maybe 3 or 4 were litigated, and he won more than half of those. So as far as them being litigated and losing, it's my understanding that they were not. They were just going out with standing, and standing can be subjective. But that's just my observation. So I'll leave it at that. I have a little more to go, but
thank you.
As per your instructions. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Next person.
Next up, Vince, Sobocinski. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Vince Sobocinski, with Payne Township. A couple comments. I know you're going to talk later about the Third Circuit decision regarding dating of ballots. I think our goal here is complete transparency and having as many people vote as are eligible to vote. And what I heard as I listened to one of the earlier speakers talk about record keeping around various areas that are of concern to the citizens of Montgomery County, I am concerned that we have the capability to adequately track and record some of that information about what is actually happening. So as we look at the situation where we think about dating, correct dating of ballots, what mechanisms does the county have in place that will be monitoring this going forward? What are those things? We'd like to know. We citizens would like to know. In addition, what other mechanisms do we have to report other discrepancies in voting that we discover going forward? There may be none. There may be many. We don't know. I don't know that any of us really know that. And that is of a concern to us. So in the interest of full and transparent elections, I think we should spend some time here as a group determining what are those mechanisms of reporting and tracking we can maintain and monitor, and how will we share that with the community in Montgomery County? Because we all have the same goal here, right? We want transparent elections where everyone's vote counts, but counts legally. This is very important. It's a fundamental right of our country. So I'll stop there, but would appreciate at some point some feedback regarding what the county will do going forward to track and have a mechanism in place to track this so it can be shared with the community. So it isn't just, well, fact checkers in the press say we do this. I'd rather have a more substantive, factual basis than that. So maybe we could work toward that as a county. Thank you.
I think it's safe to say for mail-in ballots, when a mail-in ballot packet comes back, I'll call it a packet because it's contains an outer envelope, an inner envelope, and a ballot itself. So I call that a packet. And correct me if I'm wrong, but each ballot, when they come back, that packet on the outside is reviewed, right? And the first thing that they're looking for is anything that might be incorrect or inaccurate. And we do have, like, the county, which, you know, we could talk about at our time as far as a curing process. So if possible, voters are given the opportunity, they're contacted and given the opportunity to cure their ballot and make any changes on the outside of the envelope, you know, as possible before the deadline of the election, when the envelope, the outer envelope is actually opened and that whole process kicks off. So every ballot is reviewed. You raise a good point, which I think that I'm not sure. I'm sure there's an internal report, maybe, I don't know, that do you keep track of how many ballots need to be cured or not? So maybe that's something that we could, during the election cycle, give a report at an election board meeting and say, you know, we've seen, you know, 65,000 mail-in ballots come back and 1,200 had to be cured. I'm just throwing numbers out. They're meaningless numbers. I don't want anybody reporting that. But so we could maybe have a report that we could say publicly of how many total ballots there were received back and how many had to be potentially had issues or concerns that we had a curing process. You know, it's just full, you know, transparency. So that does happen, but there is no signature verification. Right? Right.
Diane Paul.
Hi, my name is Gianna DePaul. I'm from Tomlinson Township. I just wanted to make a comment. not on the Third Circuit ruling, but how moving forward we're going to implement it in Montgomery County. I'm just wondering when that decision will begin to be implemented, when we will start enforcing ballots being rejected if they do have missing dates or miscounted dates. You know, even with Mitch Reno, and we had some other races like Mike Long and Upper Park, where it was a very close race. And so moving forward in the future, we just want to ensure that these kind of decisions aren't being made because rulings aren't being followed. So I'm just wondering the timeline. If not this primary, will the general see that these kind of decisions and these kind of protocols will be followed?
So essentially, this is, go ahead.
I just want to correct something. We did follow a court ruling in that situation. And we, on election day, what the law is on that day, we will follow, as we always have.
Okay. Yeah. So there was a court that ruled the opposite. We followed that court.
Okay. So moving forward with now this ruling. So
if this ruling is standing, is final on that day, on the election day, yes, that's what we would follow.
How are you guys going to handle information and education on this ruling then? If it is still standing, making sure that, I mean, right now we have people early voting by mail. How are we instructing them on the proper way to fill out their ballot?
Question,
right? Yes.
Yeah. Frank can
wait from yesterday's date through the date of the election.
So the other answer to your question is that based on the most recent rulings moving forward, and again, you guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but the most recent ruling moving forward now, because I asked this question when we had the special election up in North Penn, even though we had it, we didn't agree on what proper date meant or what a date meant. So again, not looking back because that decision was made, but moving forward, two things. One is that the new ballot application and then the envelope, I won't call it the application, the packet that comes back is more specific, that says with the date, month, year, date, right? It's more I hope when people see that, they understand what they have to put in. But moving forward, it's my understanding that if the ballot is not dated and they're given the opportunity to cure that ballot and they don't do that, that ballot won't be counted moving forward.
So those new forms.
Is that what? Hang on, is that correct statement?
Yes.
As of the rule, as the law is today.
Right. So those current forms, have they already been sent out? When are they going to begin to be issued?
Well, I believe the
envelopes,
the
envelopes that are being used this election.
Right.
Yeah. So they just got sent out yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And right, so it says month, day, year on the envelope,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's the way I understood it. So yes, it's already in progress.
Thank you.
Great question, though.
Bauer. Chris Casmore.
Hello, my name is Chris Casmore. I'm a Talamanson resident, part of the county of Montgomery. I was going to speak about the Third Circuit Court of Appeals decision on March 27th. As far as decertifying the results, but it seems like it's not within your power, which I learned this morning. More generally, I think we should play by the rules that are in place on election day, and they shouldn't be changed at the last minute. We shouldn't hold up our certification because we're waiting for a judge in Erie, Pennsylvania to make a decision, and I believe the right thing is to certify Rich Marino as Township Supervisor for Talamanson. Thank you.
Shannon Main.
My name is Shannon Mean. I was also going to talk about Third Circuit Court decision, but I missed the first couple of minutes of the meeting. If you are not able to decertify the election, have the power to do that, who does have the power to do that?
There would have to be someone who files a suit in the Commonwealth Court.
Okay.
Commonwealth Court or County Court?
Well, it would be.
Can you stop my
in the
time,
county.
please?
Oh, in the county court, nice job.
And then it depends, I mean, if it's a local race.
Right, it's local
state
race, right, no, but I think everybody,
Right.
there's more concern about the township race, so it'll be the county court, and then it could be, obviously, there's the appeal process, I guess, but it would be the county court first,
There is the appeal process.
right, so the county court
County court.
first.
County court first, okay. So, I mean, I just wanted to outline a few things. You can start my time again, Mary. I just want to outline a few things that happened. So the election was on November 7th. We were waiting, Rich Marino was up by 6 votes on a couple days after November 7th when all the mail-in ballots were counted. Even we were waiting for the cured ballots. I was part of the cured ballot process. I followed that closely. Even after the cured ballots came in, Rich Marino was still up by 4 votes. We were waiting for, I think, 2 or 3 military ballots to come in. Even after that came in, Rich Marino was still the clear winner of the election. And we are waiting and waiting for the election to be certified. The election was not certified. The week of Thanksgiving, going into Thanksgiving, we were told the election might be certified on the 21st, which was 2.5 weeks after the November 7th election, okay? So leading up to Thanksgiving, Wednesday before Thanksgiving holiday, when people are away and not following everything closely.
So just one comment, it's
Yeah.
got to be prospective in the future, and
Well,
none of us were in office at that time.
It doesn't matter if you're in office that
But
time. This is still that's something that's brought to you.
The purpose of the public comment is to talk about what's before us
Okay.
and what we can decide in the
Well,
future.
Mr. Marlette, I talked to him on
Yeah.
the day that these ballots were counted. I don't know the gentleman's name here, but I talked to him the Monday the ballots were counted as well. So they were both in office. I went down, so it was Thanksgiving weekend. We were notified. We were out of town Thanksgiving weekend. The supervisor candidate was out of town. Monday morning, we showed up to the ballot count, okay? And then quickly after the ballot count happened, we quickly arranged to have the election certified. So the Third Circuit Court ruling came in 2.5 weeks after when the ballot should have been already certified. Rich Marino was up by 4 votes. The election should have been certified. It was delayed, and I didn't know why it was delayed until I heard Thanksgiving morning that the Third Circuit Court in Erie ruled to have these invalid ballots counted. This was in your control. Also, coming up after that, I spoke last week, 2 weeks ago.
All right.
I spoke 2 weeks ago about the point of mootness that Kofi then filed. Because we did ask for a stay. We had an attorney come here at the certification. We asked for a stay. Mr. Marlette went ahead and certified the election. We asked for just the Tolmanson board race to be held out, and that was not done. So we followed every step possible to have you guys in this board listen to what happened in Tolmanson, at least just for the voter integrity and all of the voters and my constituents as a committee person in my area that wanted this to play out correctly. We asked for the certification to just be held out just for Tolmanson only because it was the only race that was so close. And
So you filed this case, correct?
yes, I filed this.
So you're a plaintiff.
Yeah.
And the court will rule on that.
But I mean, you guys are saying you have no power to decertify the election. I wanted you guys at least to go through the motions back to your predecessors to open up the case.
I think this is for court, right? So.
But why can't you guys go back to the beginning when election day, November 7th, and look at what your board did prior to the certification?
Because Pennsylvania law does not allow us to decertify an election.
But can't you look at the things that led up to it to make sure it doesn't happen again? If you want election integrity, this case has to be looked at from the day of election day to the changing of the rules and then to certify somebody else as a winner.
It is being looked at by the court.
No, I understand.
can't
That's not what she's saying. And I understand what you're saying. And it's almost like an after action activity. And maybe that is a good exercise to do after the primary, because the next 3 weeks are going to be extremely hectic here in the county. So I don't want to say that this isn't important. It extremely is important, but also that our staff right now is in overdrive getting ready for the primary. But I think that it would be beneficial to all of us to at least just go back for us to understand the sequence of events that happened last year, all the way, from the election day and what happened, each day after that, up to the point of when the election was certified. Understand I don't think it was the Third Circuit Court that made the original decision. I think it was the district court that made the original decision. When that actually occurred, where were we at in the overall process? Could the election have been certified? Because I'd like to know, were we waiting based on on that court case or not? So I think that we could do an after action, review, but we can't and believe me, I tell you, I'm all, like, I really want to, you know, if there's a wrong, I want to right it, fix it, right? But unfortunately, and even this morning, I verified my own understanding, even this morning before coming in here, unfortunately, and this doesn't make it right, or doesn't make it, you know what I mean? But we as a current election board, or even a board of commissioners, legally, we don't have the ability to uncertify an election or change it, the outcome at this point in time. So it has to continue through the legal process. But what we can do, and I think it's a great idea for us to at least go back and understand the sequence of events, so that we as a board could also talk correctly about what occurred when.
Yes.
So I appreciate that comment.
Okay, thank you.
Mike Jowder.
Yeah, my subject is already covered, so thank you.
And so we'll move on to Zoom, and we have Faith Kaiser.
Yes, hi. This is Faith Kaiser. I live in Upper Gwinnett Township. And I just wanted to say that, first of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. So I've worked as a, not really an inspector, but like an observer, that's what they call it, down at the warehouse where they count ballots. And I have never seen a more clean operation. Everyone there is very devoted to counting the ballots fairly and on a nonpartisan basis. It runs extremely smoothly. And what doesn't get reported at all, curiously, is that each ballot has a barcode on it that is then matched to the barcodes in the database. And so it's not really based on a signature system. It's more based on this barcode system. And it would be incredibly, almost impossible to cheat the system, because you would need to invent barcodes, put them into the database, then have the barcodes in physical life, and then match them up. Like, it's not very well reported at all that is really the basis for this system, and that the system is honest and fair and transparent. I do agree with some of the speakers that communication to the voters has been a problem. But I understand that the new commissioners are doing a study and doing a great job trying to turn that around and communicate with voters better. And I just ask for everyone's patience. There's been a massive disinformation campaign by self-interested actors, and I find this very un-American. Our system is one of the best in the world. We have people who are very dedicated, very patriotic, doing their jobs, and it's incredibly un-American. And I ask you all to look in your hearts and just consider for a moment that our system is working properly. 61 judges, some of them appointed by President Trump, said that there was no fraud in 2020. I just posted a link in the chat if you'd like to go look at it, of the Ohio State record of all those 61 cases and their numbers and the outcome of the cases. There's no evidence of voter fraud. And to rip apart at the fabric of our democracy is about the most fundamentally un-American thing imaginable. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Sandra Levine.
Mute. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes. Oh, Sandra Levine from Hatfield Township. I've heard the discussion. I have a concern when I go to vote in person and my vote goes into the machine. I cannot change it. One time in my life, I forgot that there was, I forgot to look that there were ballot questions to answer. And when I pushed the button that my vote was over, it was over. And I could not go back and fix that and decide that, oh, I forgot to vote for those ballot questions. I learned my lesson that I have to be careful and when I vote. And my concern is that when somebody does a mail-in ballot, they have to take their time, they have to vote carefully, and when they put it in the mail or a box, that they have voted. And to be able to, quote, cure things, I feel is not fair to the person that goes to vote in person. And we have to carefully look at our ballot and put it in that machine, and we cannot change it, pull it back. Oh, I forgot to do something. And I do not feel this is fair. There has to be responsibility on the part of a voter to do their vote correctly. If you want to give me my ballot back because I made a mistake in that machine and forgot to vote for somebody or didn't vote for a ballot question, well, then maybe I can look at it the other way. Thank you very much.
Okay. So
I think
we actually do allow that.
Go ahead, sorry.
So if you make a mistake in person, you can spoil the ballot and get a replacement.
Correct. You make any type of typographical error, you can issue a new ballot. Additionally, if you overvote a race, to vote for one and you vote for two people, the machine will reject the ballot, and you can either decide to cast that ballot as is, or you can get issued another ballot. Additionally, if somebody tries to submit a fully blank ballot, that also gets rejected.
That's
great. So just to put it in the microphone. So our director of elections basically just said that if you overvote, which is that if you vote for two people in a two-person race, the machine will actually spit out the ballot. Same if it's blank, and you will get a chance to fix those things. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to, what she's referring to is once the ballot is submitted into the machine and the machine accepts the ballot, you can't pull it back and change it or add to it. But we need to be clear as well when we talk about the ballots that come back, that if somebody forgets to sign it or they forget to date it, that's all we're allowing them to do is the outside of the envelope. We're not opening the ballot for anybody to change the ballot. Now, there's a whole curing process that happens on election night regarding ballots. I probably don't have the right terminology, but that's a whole other conversation as far as what happens once the ballots are open, which I don't want to turn this into an election board educational system, but maybe we could at some point in the future. Yeah. But I also want to comment, since I'm talking right now, the whole barcode thing, again, all the barcode it's matching the barcode to a barcode that the ballot was sent out. It's not verifying a person. It's not verifying anything other than all it's doing is say, this ballot was sent out and it matches and the ballot was returned and it matches the barcodes, correct?
Yes, it's a unique barcode that our system, that number can only exist once.
Right.
And it's tied to a specific voter. So
to a specific ballot.
To a specific
voter.
Well, but once it's open, it's.
Oh, not, you can't tie the barcode back to the ballot.
Right.
It's on the envelope.
The barcode is on the envelope.
Right. The barcode's on the envelope. So it's tied to a voter that somebody that requested a ballot. Right. And the ballot was sent to that person that requested it. The ballot came back. We matched the two, and that's what's verified. Right. But it does not verify if who's requesting the ballot is actually the person. There's other things in place to do that.
Correct.
Okay. Anyone else?
Last person's Jennifer Payton.
All right, I'm assuming you can hear me.
Yep.
All right, very good. So the board, I just want to re-emphasize, you have to follow the law as written. I'm disappointed to hear that you have not done an after action review already. I would like to know when that is scheduled. So are you going to do it at the end of this month? Are you going to do it in March? I have next year. When are you doing it? How is it going to get published as to what the results are for the after action review? And I don't like hearing.
Sorry, let me just ask you the question and ask her.
Can I finish? It's my minute.
I don't understand the topic that you're speaking on.
I'm talking about the elections.
Which election?
This election in general, and for the most recent election, where you counted ballots that people did not date. and that was ruled against by the court. And the legislator said they needed to be dated. You did not follow the legislation as passed. And what is your date of the after action review to understand the mistakes that were made during this most recent election? And what corrective action are you taking, and how are you going to publish that results? Does that clarify your question?
Yes, I understand. I'm happy to answer it.
Okay, let's hear it.
Thank you. So we did not make mistakes. We followed the ruling of the federal district court, and the Third Circuit went a different way. The Third Circuit prior went the opposite way, and the issue is probably going to remain in court and be appealed again. So we're following the state of the law at the time the law as the law stands at the time we make our decisions. So I think that's where we are. Mm-hmm.
All right, and when's the after action review going to be completed?
So there's no action to review.
I thought you just said that you were going to review the this most current election, do an after action review, determine if there's any corrective actions to be taken.
So after every election, we perform audits. That's something that we do.
I think that what I'm referring to is because every election we do perform, there's audits and everything that are performed. All I'm requesting after the primary this year is for us to go back and look at the November 7th, 2023 election and just understand the processes that were followed and the sequence of events so that we are better prepared to understand when certain things happen at certain points leading up to the certification of the election, including when a decision was made that mail-in ballots undated should be counted. There's a date when that happened. So there's a sequence of events. And so I'd like to see a report defining and laying out those sequence of events. I'm not saying that any mistakes were made because we, at the time, the way I understood it, was following the law that was presented at that time. I'm curious to see lag times between each event that I'm curious about. But like in the special election that we had in February, when was that special election? January. Because of the change in the law, the decisions in January, ballots that weren't dated weren't counted. But we did have a long discussion around what the date meant, and there was a vote to say even though the year was wrong, ballots were still counted because the month and day fell within the window of when the mail-in ballots were mailed and returned.
Okay,
and that could be that's a philosophical difference, and we're moving forward as of the April election, because I just want to be clear with the primary that's 3 weeks away. Any ballot that's received that does not cure with no date will not be counted as of today, unless something happens between now and the 23rd or 27th, whenever the date is.
Yeah.
You saying no date or the wrong date?
No date. Both.
All right. So you're saying you're going to count the ones that have the wrong date?
No. Because it's very
No,
specific.
you're not. So it has to be the correct date. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's as of now, yes.
Okay. So I just want to make the comment, you've got to follow the law as it's written. And it's not, you are not going to be, I'm just making this comment. I don't think the commission should be interpreting the law and saying, oh, well, they just made a mistake and they put the wrong year. If it says it has to be that specific date with the correct year, that's what it has to be. It's a legal document, and I don't care about philosophy. If you want to follow the law, then you have to follow the law. And that's speaking to the people that voted to disregard that. That is not right, and you're not upholding your responsibilities.
That was the last comment. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to our agenda for the day. And just on that piece, I'll just say the law has changed many times and it may continue to change on this topic. So we're going to hear from our Director of Elections, and he's going to tell us about polling place change that needs to happen.
Good morning, Election Board. Today, I'd like to request authorization for the relocation of a polling location for the 2024 primary election taking place on April 23rd, 2024. The Board of Elections is given the authority by the Election Code to relocate polling places as they see fit. And today I am seeking approval from the board to relocate the Montgomery 4 polling place from the village of Neshaminy Falls to the Montgomery Township Community and Recreation Center located at 1030 Horsham Road, Montgomeryville, Pennsylvania, 18936. Notice has been posted at these locations that the poll is being moved as required by law, and the locations have been notified of the move. In addition to notice being posted, every voter in this precinct will be mailed a new voter ID card indicating the location change and identifying the new polling location. Those are scheduled to go out in the mail this week, assuming the board approves this change. I am happy to answer any questions you have and request that the board approve this relocation as presented.
Got it. I will motion to approve the relocation as described by our Director of Elections. Is there a second?
Second.
Any board comment?
I just have one comment. When we were briefly talked about this at the last election board meeting, I requested to ensure that there's at that facility, because now we're combining 2 locations into one for this, you know, probably primary and general election. I don't know how fast the other facility will be remodeled and ready to be open again. But I requested that additional handicap spots are made available at that facility.
Yes, we have made that request to the township. I have not heard back from the township, but I can also check with our polling location coordinator to see if he has possibly heard. And going off what you said, it may be there for the general. After this election, we're going to request feedback both from the poll workers and the public to see if maybe there isn't a better location for the poll.
Yeah, that's the only comment I have.
Got
I just cared, the handicap spots, that's all.
And just a quick question. So how you've already sent the notice to the other location changes?
We've posted the notice and notified the village of Neshaminy Falls that we're moving the polling location. We've signed a new lease with the rec center. Once the board approves the change, all of the notices, the ID cards will be mailed to the voters.
Okay. And there was the one location I think I told you about where there are multiple buildings, and a resident wanted us to clarify that it was the clubhouse or a specific sort of building. I'll tell you about it.
Okay.
In case I think I sent it to you. But all right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the motion passes. And then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Well, just
we'll go.
Sorry. Because this Third Circuit Court ruling is going to be interesting over the next few weeks or so. What I am curious about, if we know in Montgomery County how many ballots based on the original ruling or the first ruling or previous ruling, whatever you want to call it, how many ballots undated were counted overall? And you don't have to answer that now. I mean, I don't want you to pull a number out, but I am curious of how many ballots were actually counted. Curious of which races were. Obviously, we heard this morning about the Talaminson race, but just curious, were there any other races that were or could be affected by those number of ballots that were counted? And obviously, I was going to talk about, but we already covered that, the process, because I want everyone to understand what needs to happen for election to be uncertified, recertified, or whatever you want to call it. So we've already covered that. But I think it's just important from an election board that we at least know if eventually, potentially it could be multiple. I don't believe so, but I just want to get the actual data of how many ballots were counted and how many races could be affected by this most recent ruling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2022, there were 10,000 ballots statewide that were either misstated or
No, I'm
undated,
not, I'm talking about 23.
right. I'm just
Yeah, again, I don't,
yeah.
I'm just, it's an easy, I'm sure you have the numbers. Because I just want to be able to know, you know, as this continuing gets legs of what may or may not happen in the near future as far as these elections.
Got it. Okay, so I will make a motion to adjourn the April 2nd, 2024 meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.